Is Washington's defense underrated? The offense, we talk about it all day long, but let's talk a little bit about the defense right here on Locked On Huskies.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Day edition of Locked On Huskies. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That gentleman over there is Lars Hansen. You know us from our work with Inside the Huskies, which is with Fan Nation and Sports Illustrated. You can check out all our written work over there. But thank you, all you everydayers out there, for making this your first watch or first listen of the day. And just a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Lars, today we're gonna do a little bit of defense talk right here off the bat, because I posed this question to you before the show and you gave me a very interesting answer, and I was like, save it. Is Washington's defense underrated?
I don't think they're underrated, but as I said, I'll take the layup here. They're underappreciated.
The alley-oop, you're welcome.
But they're underappreciated, and I think part of that is because of the offense just being so. I mean, let's be clear. This is not a 2016 Washington defense. This is not even 2017. This is kind of 2018 defense, right? Where it's good. It's maybe actually more 2019, right? Where it's kind of like 18, 19, like a hybrid of that. But it's not 2020, 2021, where it was just absolutely terrible. And it wasn't even like last year where it was good, but I think they've made steps this season that they didn't make last season. I mean, they have as many interceptions right now through the first 4 games that they had all of last season.
Yes.
So this defense, and I think we all kind of knew that with the way that Chuck Morrell and William Inns, the co-defensive coordinators, run this defense, it is actually pretty complex. And so I think it took a little bit of time for a lot of these guys to truly understand what their role is. And the coach, it's always kind of one of those not easy coaching talking points, but one of those kind of coaching cliches where if you just do your job, the guy next to you can do his job, and the guy next to him can do his job. That's what we're seeing. You know, Dominique Hampton, perfect fit at safety. Mish Powell, perfect fit at the Husky. Jabbar Muhammad just taking away half a field against It's against any off. Does not matter who he plays against. He's just taking away half a field. You didn't have that last season for a variety of reasons, right? Jordan Perryman was never healthy, but I don't even think, and I know we saw it in fall camp, but I don't even think Jordan Perryman at his peak is 3/4 of what Jabbar Muhammad is.
I can definitely agree with that. And, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that we touched on this in the show was we got a comment from one of our YouTube viewers who said, I wasn't really very happy with the defense giving up 32 points and 500 yards to Cal. And I want to just make sure we harped on that again. This defense did not do that. This defense gave up 18 points and 297 yards. Because the fourth quarter was entirely populated by third stringers and walk-ons. And a question that I got to ask Kalen DeBoer today, Carson Bruner was in there for a little bit to play next to his brother, who is a walk-on. And no, I'm not trying to slide him. That's just what happened. But that's what the fourth quarter was. And that's where I think that some of this defense might get lost in the shuffle, because we are going to look around the country and we are going to see people who are like, oh, they gave up 32 points to Cal. That's not very good. That's not what happened. You're right. They are just undervalued because they do a lot of the things right. And the interceptions, that's great. That's the one thing they're doing way more than they did last year, but they're not getting as many sacks. And there were a couple of there were some people out there at the press conference today who were very clearly trying to get Kalen DeBoer to say something about Braylon Trice, who was held on basically every single play by Cal. And Kalen, as we know, is just the most respectful gentleman on this planet and will never go down that road. But you could tell that he was definitely frustrated by some of the calls that they weren't getting. And that plays into this pass rush, who were credited with 22 hurries against Cal, but no sacks.
Right. And it's a game where Braylon Trice had 4 pressures. So it's like, just because he doesn't get a sack, he's forcing a lot of problems. So it's, again, just because certain guys aren't getting the numbers that we maybe would have expected or thought, or kind of just, oh, wow, you know, again, Braylon Trice, no sacks through 4 games. Is he not doing his job? No, he's actually doing his job super well. And because of that, they have 7 interceptions. Not the only reason they have 7 interceptions, but the pass rush is there. It's just sometimes, I mean, and the other thing you have to remember is teams knowing that pass rush is coming, you're having quick throws, quick outs, screens, things like that. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hand so you can't get a sack. It's kind of hard to sack the quarterback when the ball is out in 2 seconds or less. And
absolutely.
And to be fair, actually, Zion and Braylon have almost gotten to the point where they can jump the count to where they're almost there in 2 seconds, and yet the ball is still coming out.
That's one of the things that I really loved watching on just going through a rewatch of the game was watching Zion, who, just like he did in the Michigan State game, and Chuck Morrell said he was doing it almost too well, was just trying to jump the snap. And I think the one of the most impressive things I've seen from this defense so far is kind of the reemergence of Zion. And because that's something where he missed the first half of 2021 with the ruptured Achilles. And then he played all of last season, but was just kind of lost in the shuffle because Braylon Trice had his huge breakout season. Jeremiah Martin was excellent. Voit Tanufi did a really, really great job. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, Zion's also on this team. And it's funny because Zion was another dude who looked really good throughout fall camp last year and just really couldn't put it together on the field. And this year I feel like we've seen him take things a lot more seriously. You talk to him in interviews, and then you just kind of watch the way, not only that he's getting after the passer and doing everything in his power to jump the snap and try to get to the quarterback, but setting the edge and run support. He's not taking plays off, which is something where you know that he's going to go out and get drafted next year. He's not just like taking those run plays off. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Please go ahead.
No, but I was gonna say, I mean, to that exact point, I think that was kind of almost the benefit of not having him play against Tulsa was he was able to maybe see the game from a little bit different perspective, right? Because I think the one thing that Zion is great at is his mental side of the game. He knows how to approach the game. He knows how to take the right angles. It's just a matter of, well, now can you get better in run support? Does your pass rush take a hit? I think he really kind of has become that all-around edge rusher that Washington hoped he would be last year. We're starting to see that this year. He's really become that guy that you can keep him in against the run. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's able to set the edge. And, that's what allows Sakai to come in and things like that. It's all a mixture, and I think this defense is perfectly suited for that.
No, I agree. And I think that's one of the reasons that he didn't start on this defense last year, which is something that I feel like some people might just kind of gloss over or forget, is that Jeremiah Martin started over him. And it's because he wasn't really playing the run as effectively. And yeah, he's gained some weight back and is playing stronger, and 260, I think is his listed weight right now. And I think that that's something that was just kind of lost in the shuffle. And I think that he took a lot of that to heart, especially with, he could have left after last season, but him and Braylon did the joint announcement of we're coming back together in the messaging of the national championship, which we've harped on the show time and time again. And now that we're just kind of seeing what that offseason of work looks like, I think that it really does deserve its flowers, its credit as, yeah, this defense is actually really good.
Yeah, well, and I think that's kind of the thing is all the pieces that were there from that 21 team, the defense actually wasn't totally terrible. They just didn't have an offense. So right. I think it's kind of like, and we saw it even in 2020 where Zion gets 7 sacks in 4 games. So I think he showed that he has the ability to kind of just show up out of nowhere. Now he's creating staying power for himself, right? Because as an NFL edge rusher, yes, you want, and maybe not even just an edge rusher, just the guy on the outside as an exterior, defensive lineman, not an interior, but an exterior, to where you have to be able to set the run. You have to be able to kind of do everything. And I think he accepted that, he's,
yeah, for sure.
Because he knew, and we all knew after 2020 that he is, that next guy as a pass rusher, right? But we need to see that full complement in your game. And I think he really kind of came into the season mentally sharp. I mean, I remember talking to him at the beginning of fall camp. Cut his hair, like literally, not buzzed his hair, but like really went almost to the bottom with his hair. And I'm not
like
saying
a crew cut kind of thing,
right? But he's like, it's all business. Like we came back to win a national championship. I came back to improve my draft stock, show NFL teams, hey, I'm not just a one-trick pony. And all the coaches have echoed that. So I think it's just a matter of the more these guys get game reps, and Kalen DeBoer said it today. The more these guys get to play, the better they get. In each game, right, they keep making improvements, and I think Zion's just a quintessential example of that.
No, I couldn't agree more. And, I feel like it's time to just say, people need to just get invested in this team. And if you're not already, I think a great place to do that, by buying some tickets on Game Time. And because if you want to go watch this team and have some fun, you shouldn't be stressed out when you're trying to do that. And Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Some of the best things about, if you're trying to go just buy some tickets to sit at Husky Stadium, one of the best things, why don't you just find views from all the seats in the venue? You can do that on Game Time. There are last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. You can do all sorts of things. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, Lars, this one I'm really excited about because as we were planning the show out beforehand, you gave me an answer where I was like, ooh, okay, I wrote the question out a little bit differently, but I love your answer. So for all our audio listeners, through 4 games, who has been the biggest surprise? And please take your answer away.
It's not a who, it's a what. It's the running backs. It's the running game. I said the lack of a running game, but I think, again, the context matters a little bit to where when you have a Heisman quarterback, a Heisman betting favorite now on FanDuel, shout out FanDuel, that you don't necessarily need that running game. But the reason, and I remember going back to talking with Ryan Grubb about this in February when he was outside the office, shall we say, in an unusual Ryan Grubb setting where he's at an award show. And I asked him, I was like, hey, so Dylan said one of the main things that sold him on Washington, and by the way, choosing Washington and Ryan Grubb over Cadillac Williams, one of the greatest running backs in Auburn history, as their, who's now Auburn's running back coach, and staying in the SEC and all that, and going all the way out west, was he said, no, when I sat down with Ryan Grubb, he showed me if I can't run the ball, he's got ways to get me the ball. And we've seen that through the first 4 games of the season where we even saw it against Michigan State to where he was wide open in the flat multiple times. And sometimes Penix just happens to not look over to that side of the field for a variety of reasons.
Because it helps when you have those receivers.
I was going to say there's so many weapons on this team. It's just pick one. It's a luxury that Washington has. But to that point, you always want to be able to run the ball. And I think we saw that against Cal earlier in the game where Dylan Johnson ripped off a 15-yard plus run on the first series of the game. I think it was actually the first play of the game.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those where we talked about it before the game where it's like, well, I think Washington's going to run the ball to set up the pass. Well, they'll probably set up the pass and then run the ball to kind of balance it out. They really actually almost did both, right? Where, you're getting a big run, but you're not trying to pound it over and over and over just to spite yourself. It's like, no, you can get the ball out to Dylan and he'll gain you 12 yards on a catch just as much as he'll gain you 15 to 20 on the ground. So I think the way this offense is able to get the running backs the ball has kind of offset the big surprise that it truly hasn't been from a carry perspective.
So I like all your points, and I kind of want to stick there because I didn't have one who for this segment. I have 2. The first one, redshirt freshman center Parker Brailsford, man. And is he a surprise? No. But how good he's been is just surprising that it happened so quickly because he has been impressive from day one, from snap one. And he's somebody who you watch there are clips going around right now on Twitter that I highly recommend watching of him just standing up Cal nose tackles, defensive tackles, whoever it is, just in one-on-one and pass pro. And this is a dude who is 6'2", 285 pounds. And I know this is a point we harped on in the preseason when we just talked about how much they love him, is that he is just strong as an ox, man. He is just one of the most powerful players on the field, pound for pound. And watching him play, it's just, you just take a second, like I know I said this on yesterday's show where I just took a play just to watch Parker Brailsford after he pointed out to me. And I was just, this dude is unbelievable. Like first of all, how many redshirt freshmen are there starting at center just on any offensive line around the country? Not a lot, especially not on a top 25 team. Second, how many of them are being left one-on-one in pass protection and just standing up defensive tackles? Probably even fewer.
And how many of those guys are undersized in comparison to the linemen they're
Yes.
blocking. I'm not saying no shots at Parker here.
Another alley-oop there for you that I just wanted to make sure we mentioned.
But that was kind of one of the things, and that's why I don't view Parker as a surprise. And again, he's not a surprise, but even the success, because I remember talking to his dad and coaches coming out of Saguaro. He really was almost like a college player at Saguaro. So now I'm not saying he's a 6-year senior like Mateo Mele was at center,
but he plays like one.
But I mean, he plays like a junior at least. Like that's
sure.
kind of where I'm at least a sophomore or junior, where it's like, and yes, he was in the program last year. They didn't get a chance to play him because they didn't have the opportunity, and B, just timing wasn't right on that one.
Right.
So I think now, but I think he honestly probably could have played last year, and the fact that he didn't almost, I think, helped his mental side of the game, the approach and understanding the scheme and things like that, to where now he can match the physicality, and he has played multiple positions. So I think that also is another factor in why he's having success, because he knows what the guards next to him are doing because he's played guard. So I think it's a matter, he's really become that almost glue guy while being so young. That is, I think, more a testament than a surprise.
No, I like that a lot. And that's because I didn't want to knock him and say that he's surprising. But because it's everything that you said right there. I couldn't have said any better myself. And then the other one is a little bit more of a surprise. Not, after all his time in the program, he does deserve his flowers, but just kind of the improvements that we've seen him make from, call it 2021 to now, Cameron Fabiculanen. He has, like, if at the beginning of the year it was, Cam Fab, that might be a little bit of a question there on the depth chart, where not knocking him at all, but the staff was really high on Tristan Dunn. And Vince Nunley, we've seen what he's been able to turn into at safety, where it's where does Cam Fab kind of sit in all this? And then of course the injury to Asa Turner, and he's had to step up and play a little bit more anyways. And he's tied for the team lead with 2 interceptions. He looks really, really good, and he's a really, really impressive player just in terms of just how much the mental aspect of his game has improved, and just knowing where to be on the field. And then everything he's done physically too, whether it's the interceptions, whether it's run fits and manning up, he's just improved in every aspect of his game very significantly over 2 years. And that's something where last year, the coaching, especially in the secondary, it was kind of harped on a lot of, I don't know what's going on here. I'm not too happy with these guys and what they're doing. Year 2 of Cam Fab has been just such a massive jump, and I've been incredibly impressed with him this season.
Yeah, not to out somebody on the show, but I remember we were talking throughout the offseason. There's 2 players that caught a stray. Jalen Polk was one, and Cam Fab was the other.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, through 4 weeks, I think those strays were unwarranted.
They were very much unwarranted, and that's what makes them strays.
Exactly, and that's why I said a stray. It wasn't a shot.
Nope.
But it was one of those where it's like, I mean, Cam Fab was a former 4-star. Jalen Polk was one of the better Big 12 receivers as a true freshman.
Yeah.
At Texas Tech. It's a crime that he's listed as a sophomore. He's not a sophomore. It's a crime. Okay, it's a crime in itself.
His 4th year playing college football. Come on, people.
But I get it. I get the politics of it, much like I get the politics of recruiting and stars and things like that.
Not the politics of the Zach Durfee waiver being denied, which is something we should mention on the show very briefly. But please, no, just continue with the point. I wanted to make sure we got that out there.
Speaking of a criminal organization. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's all we can say about that. Is there anything else you wanted to add? That I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I mean, I think there was always the potential for Cam Fab. I think because he came in as a 4-star out of Westlake Village, Oaks Christian. It was Oaks Christian, or was it Westlake Village?
Westlake. It was Westlake.
Well, okay, because I know he was right around there. But I think he was a 4-star and a guy that could kind of do everything. He played corner, and I think it almost took him a bit to find the right position for him.
That's a good.
And point. Then also to get you know what? As great as Jimmy Lake was, he fell off as a defensive backs coach towards the end and in the end of that tenure and things like that. So I think, there's he kind of got lost in the shuffle as a result. I mean, I remember Asa was getting dogged for, all of his angles. I'm like, the angles are partially because of where they're having him play 30 yards off the ball. That's a problem. Yep. Like, we're not seeing that under the staff. So I think there's a couple of points to be said about that.
I like that a lot. Do you have anyone else or anyone you want to highlight real quickly here?
Tybo Rogers. Shout out Tybo.
Yes, I like that.
Shout out Tybo. I mean, and I much like in our last show talking about how the staff handled Joshua Lair and his recruitment and things like that, how this staff handles things and how the last staff handled things. And even, you know what? Even Chris Peterson, how he handled things is so much different
Yes.
and so much better
Right.
in every level. And I'm not saying Chris Peterson handled things poorly, but there are certain things where it's like, wait, why are these guys not playing? What's kind of going on here? There's none of that under Kalen.
No, absolutely. And that I think that's just one of the things that this staff does so well is just they stress the little things, but where they actually matter. And in certain things, they figured out the situation, they got to the bottom of it, and they righted the wrongs, I would say, is the best way to put this. Yeah. And just as we move on here, do you need fresh groceries from for the week but don't have time to go to the store? Try grocery delivery from DoorDash. You'll get everything you want delivered when you need it right to your door. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites. Now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. And do you want even more value? You can save on all your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery free on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership. With easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer support, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use code LOCKDOWNCollege at checkout. Limited time offer, terms apply. That's 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKDOWNCollege. Don't forget, that's code LOCKDOWNCollege for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. All right, this is going to be a fun segment, and I can already tell where this is going to end up going. Is this the best team in the Pac-12? I think the answer to that is pretty easy.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Michael, the only thing that was kind of separating Penix and Caleb Williams was the legs. I think that has been negated. I think that is kind of a wash, right? Not that Penix has shown better legs than Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that.
That's a whole different discussion.
Right, but I think that element has kind of like it doesn't matter as much anymore, right? Because we know what both players are, and the level that Penix is operating at, and the level that the defense is playing up to. And I think, ironically, I think Mish Powell had it on the sideline where the ESPN sideline reporter asked him a question, and it was like, what are your thoughts on Rome? First of all, the ironic part about asking a defensive back about Rome Odunze just to me is comical. but Mish had such a great answer. It's like, oh, I'm just having fun. I'm just living life. This is great. This is heaven.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
And for a defense, that's why they spotted them 14 points on offense this week. It was like, hey, you know what? You guys have been carrying the load. We've been helping. We've been doing our job. But you know what? You guys take a backseat. You Michael, sit down for a minute. Ryan, smoke a cigar. Have some fun up there. Let's get an early lead here. And partially you get Rome on as an offensive player and punt return getting a touchdown. But I think it's just and Kalen talked about it at the press conference, the buy-in from this team. There's none of the mental hurdles that used to be in this program anymore. Turf, not an issue. Grass, not an issue. Road, not an issue. When we go to Michigan.
Lightning.
Right. I mean, rain, weather, Cal being as bizarre as that game has been over the past 5 years. It's almost like.
So I like that. I like you saying this, but I have to interject because one thing, there's one more hurdle. There is one more weirdness hurdle, and it's this week, and it's going to the desert. That's it.
Right, and you hit the nail on the head, but I don't even think that's going to be a hurdle anymore. I don't think.
No, you're right. I'm not saying that it is. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that's the one where it's like, oh, this is where there are cynical Husky fans who have seen this time and time and time again. Oh, this team's really good, because even the 2016 Husky team, and we've harped on how different this Husky team is from that one. That game in Arizona, of all their wins, that was like the closest, like, oh, are they actually going to pull this out? So again, I'm not saying that it is a hurdle. I'm just saying that's one that there's probably still people that just say, all right, we need to see that.
You remember, I think it was against Arizona, but I know it was down in the desert. Well, I think it must have been 2015 or 17. One of those years, one of those early years under Peterson and Jonathan Smith, where they had basically just had to take either a knee or just run the ball. And the line that Peterson gave after the game was, well, we looked at the chart, or we looked at the something. He mentioned it was like a buzzword, but it was like, I think we looked at the chart, and the chart said run 2 more carries. And I just don't think you have that issue with Ryan Grubb. It's like,
No.
okay, like Ryan doesn't fumble the bag like that.
So I think so. If Ryan Grubb has a chart, there's one thing on that chart: touchdown. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I love this show. That's it. So yes, this team is the best in the Pac-12. But my question for you is: so right now there are four Pac-12 teams in the top 10 of the AP poll. Number 8 USC, number 9 Oregon, and number 10 Utah. They're all there. I might have gotten Utah and Oregon mixed up, but all three of those teams are on Washington's schedule. 2 of them are at home, and not in terms of like ranking those games because we know USC would be at 1, but where would you actually rank those teams right now in order of the Pac-12 hierarchy? Do you think that the AP has it right, or would it be a little bit different for you?
The disrespect to Washington State is abhorrent, but
all right, you're a Cougar alum. We can get on that.
I know. I just think you like undefeated team, and they're not. No, I just had to get that out. But no, I do think
they were ranked.
You know what? I do think it's I do think it's Utah. I think
okay.
Because I believe that game is in Utah.
No, that game's here. That game's here in Seattle.
So the fact that you get Oregon at home, you get Utah at home. I think of those two, Washington should handle Oregon a little bit better. I mean, there's no question. Oregon's going to bring their best game. I do not doubt that. I think that game might be one where Washington breaks away late. Maybe
Oregon Twitter just took that comment personally, by the way.
Whatever. So I keep receipts too. I keep receipts too, in case anybody's wondering. But yeah, no, I think with Utah, that one's always kind of the game. I mean, you go back to the Pac-12 championship in 2018 where it's 10-3. Oregon, you kind of know it's going to be a shootout, maybe like in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, things like that. That Utah game is kind of the one because it's after Oregon, right? It's the come down, right? It's the can you finish the season?
The Utah game is way later in the year.
Right, and so I think that's kind of the one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Right, where you're getting over one hurdle of Oregon. Can you still make it all the way to the end of the season with USC, Utah, Oregon State, whatever,
right.
Things like that. I mean, they should walk past Oregon State at this point. But the other three and the last game of the season are the ones that actually matter.
Was that a shot at me? Was that a shot at my preseason predictions there?
I'm just saying. If you lose to the team on the police, you don't matter as much.
I don't hate that take. But no, I like that point there a lot. So personally, I would say that Oregon is second right now, just in terms of they're right now they're on this high of this national media hype. They're not playing the game in Hollywood. Apparently, I'm not going to go into that. But they just beat Colorado, who was the darling of everybody, and that Colorado team was not that good. I'm putting that out there. I've said it before. I'm going to make sure that it's still out there. That Colorado team was not that good. But Oregon right now is on this high of everything is going right. Oh, look at us. Everyone's talking about Washington, but we're the team that people need to actually talk about. No. And I think that right now would kind of put them at number 2 because there's just going to be all that extra hype, especially if both teams win this weekend. And game day will almost certainly be here now for that matchup. And I think that's what kind of puts them at number 2 right now behind Washington, because it's all right. And everything is just kind of lining up perfectly for that early season matchup of this border war. And I think that it just kind of, it helps elevate the status of this game even further.
No, I agree. I mean, no doubt it's an important game. I think the one thing that I kind of look at with those 3 schools in particular, Lincoln Riley, I'll bet on. Kyle Whittingham, I will bet on. Dan Lanning.
Yep.
Dan Lanning. That is kind of where I talked to him at Pac-12 Media Day. He's a very good coach. He's a smart guy, wired, things like that. There's no disrespect intended here, but he doesn't have the pedigree that Kyle Whittingham and Lincoln Riley do. That's just a fact. So I think that's why those 2 games will always kind of be a little bit above it, just because the level of preparation is going to be it's going to be matched, right? And USC is just gonna be a shootout. I think the Oregon Washington game will be a like 1B, maybe 1C version of what the USC Washington game will be. Whereas Utah, that is just a grinded out. It's gonna be a battle. And whether it should be or shouldn't be, no matter what the spread is for that game, that's just gonna be one. I know how Kyle Whittingham's program is. That's just good. I mean, and by the way, they've won the conference the last 2 years. So, it's kind of hard for me to put Utah below Oregon when, look, I'll give you Lincoln Riley. I'll give it to him. Absolutely. I'll give it to you and Caleb Williams. But I can't to Oregon. I'll give it to Utah. Oregon's right behind Utah, though.
Okay, I like that a lot because it is very close, and that's kind of why I wanted to make sure that we talked about it, because the gap between I think Washington, it's not like there's a huge gap between Washington and number 2, but there is a little bit of a gap there, and then there's Utah, USC, Oregon, however you want to order it. So I like that we got a chance to cover that. You got any final thoughts for us here on this this Tuesday show?
No, but shout out to Justin Flo for finding the right program.
That is the perfect note to end on. So we will call it right there. Lars, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all the everydayers out there for listening. We do truly appreciate your everyday support. That's why it's in your name. You guys are the best listeners in the world. We really appreciate it. And if you're not an everydayer yet, please just be sure to tune in again if you like what you hear. And why I ask you to tune in, because it's so easy and you can do it literally everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. Like it. Leave us a comment. Leave us a 5-star review whatever you like about the show. Let us know. We do appreciate it. We do take all your comments to heart, and we try our best to improve the show each and every day. Thank you so much for being here, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.